Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Welcome to episode 271 of the Last Round Podcast. And today, no Danny Z. He's stuck at work, unfortunately. But the special guest this week is Iceman John Scully, former world-ranked light heavyweight and now boxing trainer, trained two light heavyweight champions in Chad Dawson and the current Artur Beterbiev. Thanks for joining me, John.
Yes, sir. No problem. And just to clarify, so Mark Ramsey is the head coach of Artur. I'm the assistant trainer. Just to throw that out there.
Just in case Mark's listening and says, hey.
Yeah. I always, whenever people call me the trainer, I always make sure they understand. I don't want to, to act like I'm trying to take credit or anything,
Right. Yeah. No. Right. I get it. So I'm sure probably people are probably wondering, how did you end up as, the assistant trainer to Artur Beterbiev, since he's obviously from Russia. He kind of trains in Canada. I believe you're based in New York. So how did that link up happen?
Yeah, I'm actually in Connecticut. What happened was, as I understand it, Artur wanted a trainer in the corner or in the gym, somebody that had fought as a professional before at a certain level, to be able to relate to him. Mark is a top trainer, but he didn't fight as a professional. And I get it. A lot of professional fighters, they want to connect with someone at times who has been through what they've been through. They can understand it on a different level. And, Mark knew me because I had sparred with John Pascal when he was training John. So he knew me. And Russ Amber, who was in the corner at the time as a cut man, he recommended me. And so they brought me up in the beginning of 2016, kind of like a tryout, I guess. I worked with Artur and, we just hit it off, and I've been on the team ever since.
What is it that stands out about Beterbiev? Because look at his record so far. Look what he's doing, in the professional ranks.
Right. There's so many things about him. In a nutshell, it's his mentality, his approach to training, his approach to life. He's the epitome of what it means to be a professional boxer. Like, if every boxer was like Artur, if they thought like him and they treated the game like he does, we would be by far the best sport on the face of the earth. It would be no question. His mentality, his way of approaching things. I always tell the story just as an overview of who he is. When he beat Joe Smith on a Saturday night in June a couple years ago for the title, for the Undisputed, it was the third title. He had two titles. He beat Joe for the WBO. So he wins the fight on Saturday, goes home on Sunday. He took it easy on Monday. And then on Tuesday at like 7 o'clock in the morning, he was in the gym training, doing his usual really hardcore strength exercise. He was hitting the tire with the sledgehammers. And this is at 7 in the morning, meaning he had to get up at 6 to get ready and drive over there and loosen up and be ready for 7 o'clock. Nobody does that. Maybe Bernard Hopkins might have done it. I don't know of anybody else who's going a couple days after winning the world title and at 7 in the morning is going to be up hitting a sledgehammer against a tire. I don't know anybody who would do that.
Do you ever have to tell him, like, hey, Artur, just go home, just rest, take a day off?
Well, in the beginning, I used to tell him, hey, rest is a very, very, very important part of training, because he used to just all out, nonstop, everything, everything was all out. And, but he's listened to that. He understands that. He's a very smart guy. Like, he's a very smart guy when it comes to his body and training and things like that. He understands. And he can see what works and what doesn't.
And I would assume less is sometimes more when you get to the end of your career.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I say, for anybody, but especially an older guy, I always say rest is one of the most important aspects of training by far. People think, like you would think, there's a lot of people. You see it with a lot of football coaches in high school. Like they think you have to train and run like a maniac every day. They think that means you're going to get in great shape. And it doesn't, because you're not going to be able to recover. And recovery is the most important part. It's like I always say, I compare it to bodybuilders. You know, the guys that lift the weights and everything, and they're huge. Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those guys. They don't do that every day. They couldn't do that every day. They wouldn't be who they are if they did it every day. Their body needed time to repair itself so that they could get those kinds of gains. And it's a very similar thing with boxing.
So what is Artur like, away from the cameras, away from the boxing ring? Because it seems he's just like a silent assassin, kind of like a machine.
Right. Yeah, well, it's funny. I always say that people, I think, have an assumption that he's kind of like a cross between Mr. T and Rocky 3 and Ivan Drago and Rocky 4. That they think he's that type of guy, and he's really not. Like, he's actually a pretty funny guy. He's got a good sense of humor. He's a really nice person. He's done things for me personally without being asked. Really, he showed me who he was as a man. He's a really good guy. He's a nice person. I've never ever heard him talk bad about anybody. Never about an opponent. He's never talked bad. He's never down talked. He's never insulted, even in private. He's never insulted any opponent in private. I think he respects fighters a tremendous amount, and he gives credit where it's due.
And any update on Arthur's injury?
I have not talked to anybody. I'm always the guy. I just wait till they call me and tell me what's going on. I figure if there was anything major to tell me, they would have told me already. I know he was scheduled to go in for surgery last week. I would assume it went well, just because of him, the way he'll do whatever they tell him to do to recover. But also, I have a friend of mine, a professional fighter who had the same injury, and he told me what it was like. And he said a lot of people hear about it, meniscus, and they're like, oh, it's such a horrible, like it's going to take 2 years to recover, or a year, and kind of like an ACL, but it's not on that level of injury. So I think I don't think it's as bad as it sounds.
Okay, let's dive into, whilst I called you up, Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk. So, John, when the fight got announced, what was your initial feeling? Who did you think was going to take this?
I thought Fury would take it. I thought he would fight a much better fight. I thought he would use his size and be physical on the inside, kind of like he did with Wilder, the way he controlled Wilder. But Usyk is a much better boxer than Wilder, and Usyk fought a very, very good fight. I think I call it like almost like little man skills, and there's certain heavyweights like Evander Holyfield who were heavyweights, but they had skills like a smaller weight class, like a light heavyweight. A lot of heavyweights don't have those kind of skills, that kind of movement, and I think Usyk does, because he used to fight at a high level as an amateur at 165 pounds. He fought Sean Porter at 165, back in the amateur days. So he brought that type of movement and skill with him, and against a big heavyweight, it proved to be a big difference.
Are you a fan of some of these big fights, the undisputed fights, being over in Saudi Arabia, or do you think they should be on home soil in the US or the UK?
Well, I look at it this way. They seem to be great shows. It appears to be dynamic, atmosphere in the arena that day, and the guys are making more money than they would have made anywhere else. So other than it being a long flight, I'm a little, I like to, if there's a big fight in Vegas, I'll probably go, but I don't think I'll be able to fly to Saudi Arabia just for every fight. I probably won't go unless I'm there, for a fight, like with Artur. But like I said, the atmosphere appeared to be very, very good. And I can't be mad at a guy for going over there, making the kind of money he's going to make there.
Now, kind of turning our attentions to the fight. Me personally, I thought Oleksandr Usyk probably took the first 3 rounds. How did you see the first 3 rounds, John?
You know, I'm not a guy. I never score fights. I've never watched a fight and scored it as I watched it. I just kind of go by my feeling. And yeah, you know, the early going, I think Usyk was in control. I think, like I kind of alluded to earlier, I think his speed was just, you know, Tyson wasn't used to that level of speed. You know, a small guy, because he looked like such a small guy, as big as he is. Because I've met Usyk, he's a big guy, but he looked like a little guy against Tyson. But sometimes being small is an advantage, you know. And any fighter will tell you, like me personally, as the light heavyweight, some of the most trouble I've ever had was with a guy 160 pounds, 154, because they're good fighters, but they're fast. They're faster than I'm used to. So I would have more trouble against a good junior middleweight than I would against a good light heavyweight, because he's faster and he's quicker and he's throwing more punches and that type of thing. And I think that's kind of what we saw. I think Usyk fought like a smaller man against a good bigger man, and he did very, very well.
And more often than not, when it's a smaller target.
Right. You know, you have to adjust for the speed, especially. You know, a smaller guy is going to be faster, and especially, you know, you don't see a lot of big heavyweights throwing nice and smooth 4 and 5 punch combinations like Usyk is able to do. And you know, so it's tough. It's tough being in there. It's frustrating being in there because they're not necessarily hurting you, even though Fury did get hurt. But they're not necessarily hurting you, but they're annoying you. And it's, you know, you realize, like, this guy's way faster than I am. It's going to take me time to get used to the speed. And in the meantime, you're losing rounds.
And do you think, like you touched on before, Usyk's amateur experience, just having, you know, around 300 amateur fights, and quite often he was the smaller man in those as well, that just gave him that experience when he's facing a giant like Tyson?
Yeah, for sure. You know, sometimes, like the traditional amateur style of back in my day of being really busy and throwing a lot of punches, you know, pity-pat punches, you know, it wasn't conducive to professional boxing. But when you get a guy who can blend them, especially a heavyweight, a guy who can blend an amateur style with professional boxing, he's going to be very hard to beat. And Usyk proved that the other night. He's going to be hard for anyone to beat.
And then, John, in rounds 4, 5, and 6, I thought Tyson took over. I thought he managed to kind of solve the Usyk problem a little bit, just really by throwing a lot of jabs, kind of sticking behind the jab, using his height, using his length. How did you see the middle rounds?
Yeah, there was a point, honestly, where I thought Usyk was going to get stopped. I thought Tyson was starting to take control, and that he just was going to overpower Usyk. And it looked almost like, for a brief moment, it looked like Usyk was losing his spirit a little bit. Like he almost was going to give in. Maybe not give up, but give in. And I know this as a professional fighter, I know how hard it is to dig down and come out of that. And you know, people may not realize it. They may not notice it. They may not think of it. But for him to, you know, you have to imagine what it was like for him. He's in with a guy who's a massive guy anyway. He's you know, multiple time heavyweight champion, and now he's starting to wear you down. Now he's starting to get to you. Now he's starting to hurt you because, you know, Usyk was wobbled there. You know, to overcome that and conquer that and finish as he did, you know, that's a special thing. I think we're seeing something. It's almost like when you think back on the great heavyweights, you know, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, you think of things they did and how legendary it was. I think years from now, they're going to look back on this in the same way they look back on those guys' big fights, and they're going to say, yeah, that Usyk, remember what he did with Fury. Like that was very special.
Is that at times, John, why when you're a trainer, you make your fighters get up early in the morning, go through those hard things, because they get comfortable being uncomfortable? And like you said, I thought the same. There was certain points where I looked at Usyk and he did look downtrodden, but he didn't quit.
Right. He overcame it. You know, and I always say a big thing, any fighter I've ever been involved with will tell you, I'm super, super, super big on mentality. you have to have the mentality. And Usyk obviously had it. He was able to overcome. And, like I say, it's easy to say, just dig down, try harder, dig yourself out of the hole. It's easy to say that, doing that in a real fight. I mean, it looks easy. It sounds easy. You would think it would be easy, and it's not. And I've tried it. I've tried it myself in tough fights where I reached down and I couldn't get it. I couldn't find it. And I'm like, man, like in the gym, I could do it. But in a real fight, under those circumstances, sometimes, and the other guy's good. The other guy's a good fighter, and he's trying not to let you dig down. And, to be able to do that, I think Usyk deserves a lot of credit for overcoming what obviously was some distress there in the middle of the fight.
In that mentality, do you think you can learn that? You can, or is that just natural? Is that just in you?
It has to be in you. You can sometimes you might need someone to point it out to you, to remind you. But if it's not in you, then it's going to be pointless. And I'll give you the perfect example. The perfect example is when Sugar Ray Leonard was losing to Tommy Hearns. And Angelo Dundee, before I believe the 13th round, said to him, "You're blowing it, son. You're blowing it." And something in Ray, and Ray will tell you himself, something that triggered something in him. And Angelo knew what to say, and he knew how to say it. And that triggered something in Ray. Now, you do that with a lesser fighter, in his mind, he'd be thinking, yep, I am blowing it. I have no choice. But Ray, that sparked something in Ray, and he dug down like a warrior, and he overcame Tommy Hearns, who was a force. And by the same token, when Leonard beat Hagler, if you remember, before the 11th round, Angelo again, he said to him, 6 minutes, Ray, 6 minutes. And what he meant was, we have 6 minutes, 2 rounds, 3 minutes each, 6 minutes. You're going to be the middleweight champion of the world if you have 2 good rounds here. He knew how to pull it out of Ray. With other guys, there's nothing to pull out. You know what I mean? They're good fighters. I'm not saying they're not good fighters, but to be special, you have to have that something special. And Usyk showed that. Ray Leonard showed that. Lots of guys, Aaron Pryor, certain guys at Muhammad Ali, they've shown that they've had it.
Let's fast forwarding, John, to the big round 9 where Usyk catches, Tyson with that beautiful left hook and has Tyson kind of like all over the place. Tyson goes from one side of the ring to the other and is kind of held up in the corner. A good call by the referee, in your opinion?
Absolutely. It's the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. You have to give the guy every opportunity. This is for something special. And I appreciate that referee. The fight ended like it was supposed to. He obviously made a good choice. I mean, the fight, Fury recovered a bit and came back and all of that. I'm glad he didn't stop it, 100%.
And just looking at Fury's powers of recovery, because obviously that kind of, the count was very, very late in the round, pretty much after the referee had done his, 10 count. It was pretty much the end of the 9th round. He goes to the corner, has his minute, comes back out and looks pretty much refreshed. Now, just explain to us, John, is that just kind of like God-given, or, is that like having lots of cardio and stuff like that helps your powers of recovery? What is it?
I think, again, mentality. I think it's a special mentality that you have to have, that he has. There's a lot of people, they may have quit on the stool after that round. They certainly wouldn't have come back strong in the next round. They would have been super careful. Tyson Fury has shown, just like when he fought Wilder and he looked like he was dead and he got up and came back in the same round. That was incredible. Both of these guys, I think Fury, he's not going to get the credit he deserves just because he lost and he talks a big game and his father is kind of an idiot, and so they, they're not going to want to give him the credit. But, he showed a lot as well, definitely.
Looking at the last couple of rounds 11 and 12, in Tyson's corner, he had 3 different voices, like you touched on, John Fury, Stewart.
I think his brother or something was in there.
Yeah, and then Andy Lee. And they all seem to be giving him different messages. One of them's like, hey, go back to the jab, go back to the jab. The other one's kind of telling him he needs to win the next 2 rounds, and the other one's telling him he's ahead. in your opinion, as a trainer, how many voices should really be talking at that time?
One. I mean, just one. And, I get it. The guys are excited and they're emotional, but that's a problem. Like, you have to be professional. This guy, you're not doing him. I know you love the guy, but you're not doing him a good service by yelling over the trainer at all. Like the trainer's there for a reason. It's his job. And and I've been in that situation in a fight, a big fight on I think it was HBO. We were on HBO, and we're losing the fight, and everybody in the corner's talking. Everybody's yelling, and at one point, some people watching probably know which fight I'm talking about, but I literally yelled right there on TV, "Shut up! Shut up! Are you crazy?" I think I even said, "Are you crazy? Are you people crazy? Shut up! Like, I need to say what I have to say. You guys are talking at the same time. He's not hearing you. He's not getting the message." Guys, they have to be under control, especially when the guy's in dire need of some help. You can't have 4, 3, 2, even 2 people yelling at the same time. I get the emotions, but you have to control yourself.
And like a short, sharp message, like how much information can you give a fighter in that 60 seconds?
Right. I mean, every fighter's a little bit different, but I know with him, it's like a guy's under a lot of pressure. He's losing, whatever's happening. He's a little hurt, whatever it is. You can't, you see guys sometimes, they want to literally give him 7 different things. They got to use the jab and keep moving and keep your hands up and sit your butt down. You cannot tell him all these things. He's not going to hear them. Some of the stuff he's going to do just by instinct, but you have to tell him the 1 or 2 most important things, because you think about it. Like, you tell a guy 3 things, and is he really going to grasp 3 instructions at the same time? He's not. The one that resonates with him the most is the one he's going to really concentrate on.
And it must be, I assume it's different when you're dealing with someone like a Fury or an Usyk, because their boxing IQ is so high. Some of them kind of look like they could train themselves.
Right. A lot of people would think that, but I don't. But I would say no. I would say no. A guy training himself, he's going to mess up. He's not. I don't care who it is. The best fighter in the world. He needs someone with a good pair of eyes to really pay attention to him. Because when a guy is slacking or slipping or doing something wrong, who's going to tell him? Who's going to, how's he going to know? He's going to feel good. And just because you feel like you're doing something right, your trainer may say, I've done it with guys, just a simple, like they're jabbing and they're dropping the right hand. They had no idea they were doing it. And and if I wasn't there, they would have been doing it for 6 weeks, every day. But you nip it in the bud and you just correct these things. So yeah, I don't recommend anyone, even a guy like Muhammad Ali. I wouldn't recommend training himself for sure.
And you're on the outside looking in. You can see the whole picture, where obviously he's up close.
Yeah, well, you know what? You believe it or not, there are things that a fighter cannot see. Like, he will not notice. A fighter, you could watch a fight and he, fight, the blue corner hits the red corner with a right hand, and the red corner wobbles, and you can see he's wobbling, right? Everybody on earth watching the fight knows the red corner is hurt, except for the guy in the blue corner. He doesn't see it. You could. I've been in fights where I caught guys and I had no idea they were wobbling or anything until after the fight when I watched it on tape. I had no idea. So, you need a cornerman to tell you these things, 100%.
And is that just, do you think, John, because you've got kind of tunnel vision, you're kind of looking at their chest?
Yeah, well, you're too close. People see it because they're watching it on TV on a camera that's, 50 yards away from the ring, you know what I mean? And with a zoom lens, it looks different. Believe me, even like you could hit a guy and his leg buckles. You don't know his leg buckles because you have to look at his face. You're looking at his head, but everybody in the audience saw his right leg quiver. And the only guy that didn't see it is you. Believe it or not, that's fact.
So at the end of the fight, we had Oleksandr winning a split decision against Tyson Fury, 114, 113, 113, 114. And then 115, 112 to Oleksandr Usyk, winning by split decision and becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. So, John, I said, obviously, you said you don't score the fight, but as you watched it, did you think we got the right winner in the end?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. He, the whole vibe I felt was that Usyk was winning. I think he deserved to win. You know what I mean? Like, if it was over and he didn't get it, you say, man, like, with him being a smaller guy and fighting such a great fight and coming back from a rocky mid fight and hurting him, only one guy really got traumatized in the fight, and that was Tyson. I certainly think the right man won. Yes.
What was it you think that Oleksandr Usyk changed mid-fight to help him get the victory?
I think he did hurt him. Once he hurt him, I think that was definitely a huge turning point. And pain and hurting someone definitely has a way of changing their approach to you and changing the rhythm of the fight, the vibe of the fight. But like I say, he got into his groove. He started almost like once he started rolling his shoulders a little bit looser and letting his hands go in combination. I don't think Tyson just was able to keep up with the pace. And like I say, I mean, when you're used to fighting guys who don't throw as many punches and they don't throw them as fast, it's a big thing to be in there with someone that it's faster and quicker and has more volume than you're used to.
I know the IBF are already, even though we've just been crowned the undisputed, the IBF are already looking at stripping Oleksandr Usyk and letting, it seems like Hrgović would be fighting Daniel Dubois maybe for that belt. Are you a fan of the IBF technically sticking to their rules, or would you like to see the undisputed?
I don't know the specific intricate details, but this is par for the course. I hate the business of boxing. I despise it. And I can't even express to you, unless I went really bonkers, I couldn't really express to you. I'm trying to keep my composure. I really hate it. And, they have a chance to do something good, to let boxing, the heavyweight champion is the guy. He's supposed to be the most recognizable, sports figure on earth. He used to be. When Joe Louis was champion, when Rocky Marciano was champion, when Muhammad Ali was champion. It's a different world now, but, it's almost like, all right, there we go. Somebody's going to strip somebody. Of course they are. Of course they can't restrain themselves. They have to do it, and they have to announce it like 4 hours after the fight. It was already out there that they're going to do it, and sometimes I wish an alien ship would come down and just obliterate all four sanctioning bodies and just take them away somewhere to Venus or wherever, and we could just start over and put me in charge. I'll have things running smoothly like we wanted to in a week.
Why do you think the heavyweight champion of the world isn't as recognizable as he once was?
Because there's too many of them. Like I've kept track of these type of things, right? And I actually have it in my computer. I don't know the exact number, but I believe the first heavyweight champ was like in 1885, right? Give or take, John O'Sullivan. And they went all the way to 1985, like 100 years, right? There's been more heavyweight champions since 1985 than there were in that 100 years. Think about that. There's been more in that time because we've had so many guys. There's four champions, and they keep losing the title. Nobody can keep the title for more than one fight. You know what I mean? And they just keep losing it, and then they're stripping people every Tuesday and having them fight for another title. There's guys. Think about it, like the heavyweight champion of the world. If Joe Louis, if Rocky Marciano, if Muhammad Ali walked in Times Square, they would shut Times Square down. Like the crowd that would assemble, it would be phenomenal. And even I remember reading one time, they said Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali went to Times Square together and they shut it down. People just flooded to them. Right now, I don't want to name names. I'm not going to name names, right? But I could name 5 heavyweight champions, quote unquote heavyweight champions, from the last 20 years. 5 of them. I can name 5. If you took all 5 of them right now and put them in the middle of Times Square for an hour, not one person of the thousands of people that would walk by them in Times Square over the course of an hour would recognize any of them. Now, that's a fact. People don't have to like it, but that's a fact. And that's wrong. The heavyweight champion is supposed to be the most recognizable sports figure on earth. And there are heavyweight champions that, honestly, I wouldn't know if I saw them. If I was in a building and they walked up to me, and now if Joe Frazier walked up to me, if George Foreman, if Floyd Patterson, if Ken Norton, if any of those guys walked up to me, I'm going to know them. There's heavyweight champions from the last 20 years could walk up to me and pick my pocket, and I wouldn't know who to tell on. I wouldn't know who they are. That's wrong. That's wrong.
John, would you like to see more of a UFC model where they kind of control everything and there's only one belt per weight division?
I mean, ultimately, it would be amazing. And I'll tell you what people don't understand. Like they say, oh, we need more than one champion, to have all these title defenses. I go, listen, back when there was one champion, there was 5 times, maybe more fighters back then than there are now. Professional fighters. You can look that up. They say, think about this, what I'm about to tell you. Think about it. Let this soak in. They say back in, I think it was 1947, they said there were more professional fighters in the state of New York than there are in the entire United States right now, today. There was more professional fighters in New York City, New York State, than there are in the entire 50 states right now. Now, you think about that. Think about, and they had one champion for all those guys back in 1947. But now we suddenly need 4. We don't need 4.
Just for TV, isn't it? So they can sell every fight as a world champion?
Yeah, it's for the sanctioning body to make money. That's why they want to strip everybody. I mean, think about it. If you live in a world where we would need a silver champion, which I don't know what it is. I'm in the game and I don't even know what a silver champion is. If you held a gun to my head and said, you're going to die if you don't tell me what a silver champion is, I'm going to have to die because I don't have a clue what a silver champion is. But yet he's a recognized world champion. He's going to be in the history books. It's wrong, but they get money. They get money from it. So the sanctioning bodies have turned themselves into money-grabbing, money-hungry entities that just are looking for new ways to make more money. It's insanity. And, I wish I could they could put me in charge of the WBC or something for a year and I would have it running so smoothly. And because I'm not in it for the money, I'm in it for the history. I'm in it. Look, I want to be comfortable, right? I want to have a house. I have my house. I want to have some food. I want to go on a trip sometimes, but I'm not looking to get rich. I want the game to be back where, like I say, there's more heavyweight champions in the last 45 years than there were in the previous 100. That's not because guys are getting better. That's not because the game is better. That's because these guys can't hold on to it. That's because they're stripping everybody and they're giving out belts left and right. I mean, it's insane. They like I told you before, there's heavyweight champions in the last 20 years. I wouldn't recognize them if they mugged me. I wouldn't be able to know who to tell the police. Back in 1975, I go, hey, Muhammad Ali just stole my wallet, right? The champ just stole my wallet. Now, these guys could walk up to me and slash me with a knife. I wouldn't even know who to tell on. I don't recognize them, and that's an indication that we're in a bad place.
What's your thought on rematches? Every time we get a big fight, there's already an automatic rematch.
Right. I mean, some fights you should have a rematch. Like when Wilder and Fury fought, I would have asked for one even if they didn't want to. I would say, but sometimes, the rematch clause, like say you have a fight, there's a rematch clause. All right, now we fight. It's a horrible fight. It's the worst fight we've ever seen. Are we really going to have a rematch of this fight that was horrible? I mean, you can say we're going to have a rematch, but now people are going to have to buy the rematch. We want to make a certain amount of money for the rematch. So if we're not going to expect a large crowd and a good pay-per-view sales, then maybe we're not having the rematch. So, some fights don't. Some fights absolutely should have had rematches and didn't. And some of these rematches, I'm like, I don't think the world at large even wants to see this again. So, boxing business is out of my realm. They have their way of doing things and they know more about why they do these things. But I can assure you that it's generated by money. Money's a reason they're doing whatever it is they're doing. And, it's almost like I wish somebody like, Bill Gates or, one of those guys, 50 Cent, somebody with big money that doesn't need the money. Let a guy like me, who doesn't care about the money, run things. And I'll have it running smooth because I'll have it running the way a boxing fan would want it to be run.
Looking at this rematch, which I think they said maybe around October, depending on injuries, could you see Tyson Fury reversing the decision? Because, like we both said, he looked like he was coasting in the middle rounds. Right.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, people are down on him, and they kind of go by the flow of things. And right now, he's a black mark, right? People aren't into him right now, but he's still Tyson Fury. If he turns it around and changes his mentality, he's gonna in a different game plan. I thought the game plan was a little off. It didn't look like he was executing how he needed to win the fight. I was kind of surprised with the game, whatever the game plan was. But yeah, if he wins the rematch, I'm not going to be shocked at all. He's Tyson Fury. He's still Tyson Fury. So I'm not going to be surprised at all.
Unbeaten, undisputed cruiserweight champion, undisputed heavyweight champion. Is Oleksandr Usyk the pound-for-pound best fighter at the minute?
I'll say this. Pound for pound means if they were the same weight, would he be able to beat everybody else? Now, the problem with the heavyweights is they do things generally like a heavyweight, even though Usyk fights like a bit of a smaller man. But if he threw the exact same punches, sometimes he caught the big wide punches. If a welterweight throws those wide punches, he's going to look sloppy, especially if he misses. He's going to look like an amateur, look like a novice amateur. So, other than Muhammad Ali, probably in the mid-60s, maybe Larry Holmes in the early 80s, I don't know a lot of heavyweights who could say they're pound for pound. To say he's better as a technician and smoother than Terrence Crawford, I don't know if I could say that. I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that. But he's obviously very good, though. I don't want to shed any bad light on him whatsoever. Usyk is phenomenal. Yes.
Looking at the heavyweight landscape right now, who do you think would trouble Usyk?
I don't know if Tyson Fury wasn't at his best. I'm not sure. I thought Tyson Fury would trouble him. I would have to think Tyson was a little off. He didn't look like his game plan was really on par. I would think he has the capability to give Usyk trouble. But honestly, I'm not really up on the heavyweight scene today. I'm not, from what I've seen, I'm not super impressed with it. So I haven't seen anyone, and granted, I haven't seen everybody closely, but I haven't seen anyone who jumps out at me like, oh yeah, they'd be a problem. Tyson Fury was the one I thought was going to be the problem.
Well, John, I appreciate you giving me 45 minutes of your day. If you want to just tell everybody where they can find you, what's happening with you, I'd like to touch on the charity work that you do so people know. Just the floor.
Well, I'm if anybody wants to reach me, I'm on Facebook. John, I have two pages, John the Iceman, and the Iceman is one word, John the Iceman Scully, or Iceman John Scully. Those are my two pages. You could message me if you can't friend request me, because I'm at the limit, I think, on both of them. But if you friend request me, if you message me, we can conversate, and I could probably delete someone on one and accept you. I do a lot of boxing talk. I do a lot of stuff with the charity work that I do is all on my Facebook. It all goes through my Facebook pages when I raise the money for the guys. So if you wanted to take part in that, you'd have to monitor my page for sure.
Yeah, so if anybody's listening, if anybody's a collector of signed memorabilia, John, if you get the chance to follow him on Facebook, he does signed gloves, sign this, sign that, and obviously he goes.
I have a WBC belt right now. That's a WBC trainer's belt, the one they give to Eddie Reynoso and those guys. I have that one signed. I mean, Vinny Pazienza, Tim Witherspoon, Pinklin Thomas, James Toney, Wayne McCullough, David Tua. I mean, I can't even think of everybody. Just tons of guys signed that one. That one, that's going to go for a nice amount of money for sure. I'll have that up this coming week for sure.
And just so people know, all the money goes to retired fighters who've kind of hit on hard times.
Right. Well, it's right. Well, mostly it's Gerald McClellan, Wilfred Benitez, and Pritchard Colon. 3 guys who have been severely damaged in the ring, and their families take care of them. So it's and it's them 3. They're the main ones. But I do have several, if not numerous, other fighters, mostly former world champions who need a little bit of help now and again, and I send them money. But Wilfred, Gerald, and Pritchard are the 3 main ones.
And where can they find you on Twitter, John?
My Twitter is, I believe it's Iceman John Scully. I never really pay. I go on there quite a bit, but I forgot what my handle is, but I'm almost positive it's Iceman John Scully. And I have Instagram, and they're all basically Iceman, something to do with Iceman John Scully. I would assume they're all that.
And we are at The Last Round 12 on Twitter and Instagram. And be sure to catch us next week. This is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round Podcast.